Hello and welcome to Faces of Abortion. I'm Joyce Zunas, Director of Women's Outreach for Operation Outcry Silent No More. Faces of Abortion is a program dedicated to bringing you an important truth: abortion hurts women. Join us as we hear from women across the nation speak to this truth. In their own words, they will share personal insight as to the devastation abortion has caused them and their family. Faces of Abortion is also a place of hope and understanding for those suffering from abortion trauma. Are you hurting? Stay tuned and experience the hope and forgiveness I have come to know after multiple abortions. And finally, Faces of Abortion will provide you with practical ways in which you can help end abortion today. I promise you will be moved, informed, and educated in a powerful way on this week's edition of Faces of Abortion.
Welcome back to Faces of Abortion. I'm your host, Molly White, and I just very honored and privileged to introduce our co-hosts with us today. We had Clayton Trotter, who's the General Counsel of the Justice Foundation, and Alan Parker, the President of the Justice Foundation. And we also have in our studio a special guest, Arlene from Colorado. And welcome to the studio, Arlene.
Should abortion be a woman's choice? That's the argument, isn't it? And it has some appeal. But today, you're going to hear about the reality of abortion. What really happens when a 16-year-old girl is pregnant by a 21-year-old man? Whose choice is it to have an abortion then? You're going to hear the reality from Sissy and Arlene today of what their abortions did to them. Somebody told them it was the answer to their problem, but you will find out the truth today on Faces of Abortion.
Real-life stories from real-life women who have been hurt by abortion and are silent no more. In her own words, without interruptions or questions. It is emotional, powerful, truthful in a way that you have never seen, most likely have never heard, nor experienced.
My name is Sissy Higgins. I was 16 years old when I found out that I was pregnant. I had been from an unhappy home and was got into a relationship with an older gentleman, 21, and became pregnant. My mother decided I would have an abortion. My father was very ill, and she decided that it would kill him, or that's what she told me, to find out that I was pregnant. So she took me early one morning to an abortion clinic. I was 6 weeks along. And they left me in there for 8 hours crying because I didn't want an abortion. And they didn't help me at all. They left me cry there. I'm sorry. After 8 hours, they took me in a little room. They sat me down and they said, "We won't make you get on this table." So I sat there and I had to decide, would it be my baby or my father? God forgive me. I decided to get on the table. I don't remember the procedure because what they gave me knocked me out. And the next thing I remember was them dragging me over to a cot and laying down. And I woke up screaming, "I've killed my baby." And they gave me more Valium and sent me out laughing. And the next year of my life, I don't even hardly remember, except that I went from a straight A student to walking out of bar rooms at 6 o'clock in the morning, just wishing someone would hurt me. I didn't care about myself. I didn't want to live. I couldn't take my life because I'd already taken one. God was so merciful that he found me before anything terrible happened. And I went into a church, and I heard the story of how Jesus died for me. I'd always heard that he died for the world, but I didn't know that it was for each person and each person's sin. But I sat in the back of that church, and the pastor went into detail of the suffering of Christ and how he was beaten beyond recognition as a human being. And he said, how dare you say that it's not enough for you? And that's exactly what I was saying. He could die for the sins of the whole world, but my sin was too great. And when he said that, I said, yes, Lord, it was enough. And Jesus came into my heart, and the terrible, terrible guilt was taken away. But the grief that I had stuffed when I walked out of that clinic wasn't yet to be realized. I went several years. I had 3 children, became super mom. I was overwhelmed with guilt. I couldn't make any mistakes raising my children. I had myself under tremendous standards that nobody should have to live under. And I was talking to a friend about abortion and telling her how wrong it was, and she asked me why wasn't I one of those people out there who picketed. And I said, because I would never tell a woman what to do unless I could give her an alternative. Because they sat me there for 8 hours and they didn't offer me an alternative. But as I spoke with her, the Lord reached down into my heart and asked me to ask him the question I wouldn't ask him. I wouldn't ask him for years. And he said, ask me. And I hesitated and I resisted, and he said again, ask me. And when I said, Lord, where is my baby? The grief that had been buried for 10 years came out. And I began healing. 10 years after my abortion, I began to heal. Nobody was talking about it back then. I didn't know I could talk to anybody about it. There's so much shame and so much self-hate, so much, that I really could only talk to the Lord about it. And after several years of that, he brought me to Living Alternatives. And I began to work with them to give women alternatives to abortion. And he brought me through a Bible study called Women in Rhema. And I went through that Bible study, and then I began to really heal and know that not only was I forgiven, but he took my ashes and made something beautiful. And I began to speak out to anybody that would listen. And my heart is broken for the women who are still sitting in silence and in shame, not knowing that they are forgiven and they can be forgiven and they can be healed. And that all the tears that they've cried in silence, God has seen. And that the shame is not ours. It's really not. We were lied to. We were told it would take care of a problem. Not telling us that we cannot live with taking our own children's life. It's not livable until it's confessed and it's forgiven. And I thank God for that. And I thank God